Hello, friends. I'm here today to talk to you about a subject that is near and dear to my heart, something that I have a lot of experience with uh, home defense, self defense, and towards the end of the video, I'm also going to cover a little bit about situational awareness, how to keep yourself out of the situation in the first place. It's not always avoidable, but there are things you can do that are going to lower your chances of being put in an unfortunate situation. And also, I'm going to put out there right now at the start that this is not legal advice. I'm not trying to tell anybody how to get away with anything or how to not get in trouble for doing things to people. No, 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 no. Don't try to put that back on me, please. This is just me trying to help you keep yourself and your family and anybody around you safe. Not only from the bad guys, but from yourself as well. Because some people really need to hear this, that, weapons are dangerous. They can hurt yourself or the people you care about just as easily as they can hurt your intended target if you're not careful. And with all that being said, if you're an old pro and you're watching this right now, you've owned firearms forever. Maybe you're a veteran, maybe you're law enforcement, maybe you're active military, then a lot of this is going to be old news to you. But if you want a refresher or you want to hear, just a different take on it potentially from what you've heard before, then stick around. Why not? If you're somebody who's completely new to this, you've maybe lived a sheltered life, but suddenly you don't feel so safe anymore, for whatever reason. Maybe you've moved to a bad neighborhood. Maybe you've had a run-in with someone who's a little violent, someone that scares you, and, suddenly, hey, I need to worry about myself. Then, this is definitely going to help you, I think. And this is more, you're more the person that this is geared towards. Nobody, well, most nobody, wants to get in an altercation where violence becomes the answer, where you have to defend yourself from someone that wants to hurt you. That's just the unfortunate reality that we live in now, is that there are people out there that are going to try to hurt you because they want what you have, or they're, maybe they're just crazy. Maybe they just want to hurt you. I mean, I myself have been attacked by someone who was just completely out of his mind. I was at a traffic light and this nut job just attacked me, and I had to defend myself right there in the middle of the highway with cars going around. It was nuts. I'm not going to get into that. That's a story for another day. The main thing that I'm going to cover here today, weapons. I want to talk about weapons, firearms particularly. There are a lot of accidents every year from people mishandling firearms, not knowing what to do with them. I will say first and foremost that if you have the time, you can afford it, and you have the resources available to you, take a firearm safety course. There are a lot of public places that offer that. I think some police departments offer it. There are very few places that don't have an option available unless you live out in the middle of nowhere, like out in the remote Appalachian wilderness. In which case you probably already know how to handle a gun if you're living up there anyway. But just want to clear up a few common misconceptions that I've heard. And you may be asking yourself, well, who is this guy? Why is he talking to me about this right now? Well, a bit about me. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I'm a combat vet. I fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I have not only been trained over and over and over again by the country's finest, I've also put these principles into use. I've seen all sorts of things. I've done all sorts of things. I've been in situations where my proficiency with a weapon is the only thing keeping myself and the guy to my left and the guy to my right alive. And I'm still here. So I think that's pretty good credentials right there. I'm still alive. And look, I got all my fingers. I got all my limbs. I'm not going to stand up right now because I'm lazy, but I promise I still have legs too, and feet. It's all here, the whole package. Didn't lose anything over there. But yeah, I'll even show you a couple of pictures here just for fun, because anybody can claim anything on the internet these days. Here you go. Okay, well, now that you've seen that, that's just a quick peek. Hi, look at me, I was so cute and young. But here I am now, old and grizzled and wise in certain areas. Uh, let's start off with very, very, very basic firearms rules here. If you don't already know this, when you have a weapon in your hand, if you even think about picking up a weapon, you need to assume and act like that weapon is loaded. It doesn't matter if Cousin Billy Bob said, "Oh, it's unloaded, man. I took the bullets out of it last night. Go ahead, pick it up, spin it around, point it at your head. Everything's fine." You know what I mean, Burn? No, 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 no. Ernest T. Worrell is not the one you want to follow on this. Never take anyone's word that a weapon is unloaded. You check for yourself. If you're in a position where you're picking it up and you're just transporting it from one place to another, it's never a bad idea to open the chamber, open the breech, whatever the weapon has, and look to see if it's loaded. And, for me personally, just from my experience, even if I've looked and I see that that weapon's unloaded, I'm still not going to point it at anybody. I'm still not going to, spin the barrel around across anybody's face. That weapon is either going to be, if it's a long gun, I might have the barrel up on my shoulder or down to the dirt. If it's a pistol, of course it's going to be down to the dirt. It's going to be in a holster or it's going to be in my hand at my side. That's number one. Number two, when you're carrying that weapon, do not put your finger on the trigger. I've seen people, I'm going to pick my pistol up here for an example. Oh, hang on. Oh, look, I unloaded it. I checked that it's unloaded, so I followed my own rule. But anyway, when you pick it up, keep that finger straight. Do not hold it like this. This is asking for trouble. The only time your little finger should be on this little trigger is when you're getting ready to use it, okay? That's treat every weapon as if it's loaded. That's part of it. And it brings us to the next point. Don't point at anything, unloaded or not, unless you intend to shoot it. When you're at the range, if somebody is teaching you how to do sight picture and you're on a firing range or you're in your backyard, wherever you may be, and you're pointing at a target, okay, that's different. On a firing range, one would assume, one would hope that everything's in place, nobody's downrange, nobody's getting shot, okay? If you're in your backyard, and you've double and triple checked that it's unloaded, and you're pointing at a target, and hopefully not at somebody's house, because let me tell you, even if your weapon is unloaded and somebody looks out, your neighbor looks out their window and sees you pointing a weapon at their house, they're either going to yell at you or they're going to call the police. You got to have common sense. Please, please, please have common sense if you're holding a weapon. I mean, if you just lack the intelligence, please don't get a firearm. Or if you've already got one and, maybe you're not the sharpest butter knife in the drawer, then pay attention. Learn something, please. I just want people to stay safe. That's all I want. And, again, being an American, we have the right to bear arms. Most of us, unless you're a felon and whatnot, then you kind of blew that one for yourself. But for the rest of us, protected by the right to bear arms, then sure, knock yourself out, but be safe with it. So, let's see, we've covered treat every weapon as if it's loaded, keep your finger off the trigger, and don't point at anything you don't intend to shoot. All very basic, very good rules. So, now that we've covered that, for you new guys, we're going to move right along to talking about the weapon itself. And this is definitely aimed at people who don't have a lot of firearms experience for one reason or another. So you've gone out and you've bought yourself a new weapon, or you're going out to buy a new weapon, whatever, Let's back it up. Let's pretend you don't have a weapon yet. That's a better place to start. You're going to a weapons store and you're looking for a self-defense weapon. Well, I mean, sure, some of us get very excited about large caliber weapons. I'm going to show you right here. See what I have here? This is a 44 Magnum. This is the bullet for that 44 Magnum. Put it up against my nose here. Look at that. That is a very large round coming out of a pistol. And believe you me, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'1", and this thing kicks like a mule. I mean, when I hold on to it, I hold on to it for dear life. You know, I'm making absolutely sure that when I fire this weapon, it's not going to get away from me and hurt myself or anybody else around me. If you're new to weapons, do not just go for a large caliber. I can assure you that a small caliber weapon will injure and deter or potentially even kill a person just as easily as a large caliber weapon will. For me personally, I'm going to show you, I'm kind of straddling the middle ground. This is a 38 special. This is what I carry. This is what I keep on me at all times. You know, this thing is my go-to self-defense weapon. And you see, it's small. I mean, it's just big enough for my hand. I mean, you know, if I really grip tight, my pinky slips off. But I looked at a lot of weapons before I settled on this one for an everyday carry, everyday self-defense weapon. And this 38 special, it can fire a couple of different bullets, but what I have here, this is a Magnum right here. And it's a little hollow point, and if this doesn't stop a person, then they came to play. They're wearing armor, they're doing something. Because, I mean, if you even hit somebody in the leg with this, hit them in the shoulder with this, it's gonna kick them. It's gonna feel like they got punched, and it's gonna tear a hole, and it's gonna leave them bleeding. But it also is very easy for me to handle. This is a caliber weapon that I can fire steadily and readily, whether I'm asleep. You know, if somebody just suddenly kicks in my door and I wake up and, oh crap, I grab a gun. I know that even half asleep, I can fire this weapon without losing control of it. That is the important part that you need to be thinking of. Because whenever trouble comes your way, most of the time you're not going to be expecting it. You know, if you have time to anticipate that trouble is coming, you have time to call the police. You have time to get away from it, probably. You know, most of the self-defense situations you're going to find yourself in is somebody who comes out of the blue, because, you know, bad guys are not like movie bad guys. They don't announce themselves. They don't announce their plans. They don't give you any indication. I mean, you might see a shady guy ambling up to you on the sidewalk. You know, I've been around some shady cities where you stop at a gas station and you need to have eyes on all sides of your head. And, you know, I've had people approach me, and I stand up and I just, you know, kind of turn to where they can see the pistol on my belt, and, you know, they just move along. They don't try it. You know, that is a visual deterrent right there. But I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I'll talk about that later. What I mentioned about how this fits in my hand. You want a weapon to where you can get your whole hand on it. Like if I tried to have a Derringer or something, I mean, I could barely get 2 fingers on it. And I mean, it's a small gun, it's concealable, but it's just not, it's not great for me. I'm probably going to shoot a hole through my own finger trying to get the thing up and use it. So when you're looking for a weapon, keep that in mind. Keep something that you feel comfortable with. 9mm down. 9mm is a good one. You know, there's a reason law enforcement uses it. There's a reason it's probably one of the most popular firearms people get for self-defense, because it's not a huge round. I mean, you know, it's going to do the job though. 9mm is still not a slouch, and anything down below 9mm, all the way down to a 22, man. I mean, if I get shot with a 22, I'm going to go up the chase personally. It's a little round. I mean, it's like the size of a pencil, but it's going to hurt. Any firearm is going to hurt. So don't let anybody tell you, oh no, that thing's not going to hurt anybody. Come on, man. You have not been shot before. You've not shot anybody before. You don't know what you're talking about. Cousin Billy Bob again doing his thing, going on a tangent, talking about some, well, man, dang old dang, you got to have a big old round, man. It's got to be as big as my thumb, man. No, Billy Bob, no. Do what you do. Do what you're comfortable with. Now that we've covered selecting your weapon, we're going to cover what to do with that weapon once you get it. Don't buy a weapon, whether it be a pistol, a knife, a ball bat, a ballpoint pen, whatever you plan to use to defend yourself. Don't just get it and then hold on to it thinking that it's going to do its magic when the time comes. You need to practice with it. You get a pistol, you take that pistol to a range. Most cities have indoor ranges, and most rural areas have outdoor ranges. Wildlife management areas, some of those even have areas set aside just for range use. Or somebody who has some land that has a backyard that'll let you go shoot your little pistol. Either way, you need to go put rounds through that weapon for several reasons. One, even if you bought a brand new weapon that's never been fired from the store, that weapon could have a defect. There could be a warped firing pin. There could be some kind of defect in that weapon that will make it not function when you need it to function. Okay? So that's one reason, is to make sure it works. Number two is, like I was talking about with that whole caliber thing and the grip, and making sure that you're comfortable with it. If you've got a weapon and you've never fired that or maybe any other weapon in your life, and you expect yourself to be cool and calm and, holding it down your first time you need to fire it, it's not going to happen. That's a fairy tale. I'm here to tell you. Because when the time comes that you're forced to draw and use that weapon, your adrenaline is going to be high. You're going to be shaking. You're going to be just amped up. All your muscles are going to be tight. It's going to feel like you just touched a live wire your very first time. You are going to draw up. And, if you've never fired that weapon, you're not going to expect the power that comes off of it. You're going to startle yourself. You're going to snatch it to the ceiling. You're going to snatch it to the side. That's the point where, first off, you're missing the guy you're aiming at. And second off, you might be shooting through a wall and hitting someone that you care about. You might shoot yourself in the foot. So go to the range, put some rounds through your weapon, find out if that weapon's good for you. Get accustomed to the weapon. Get yourself on paper. It doesn't matter. You don't have to hit the bullseye. Get yourself one of those targets that has the silhouette of a man on it, and you put that target out to about where you think that it should be. Say, I don't know, with a little pistol, maybe 15 feet away. Because if you're defending yourself, it's not going to be from a person with a long-range rifle in most cases. It's going to be somebody up close and personal. If somebody's grabbed a hold of you and you feel like they're trying to drag you away, and you can get your pistol out of your purse or your holster or whatever, and you're probably going to be right at point blank. You're not going to miss. But if you're in your bedroom and you hear somebody break through your front door, and you come out into the hallway and that someone is standing 10 or 15 feet away from you, and they're brandishing a ball bat, a knife, or maybe they've even got another gun, your livelihood depends on your ability to level that weapon and pull that trigger. And that's why you need to practice. Do not forsake it. I'm not saying you have to go to the range every week. I'm not saying you have to go to the range every month, but I am saying that if you plan to use it, you need to go at least once. You got to try it. You got to feel it. And if, you have the ability to go once every month, once every couple of months, once every 6 months, whatever, just keep yourself acclimated and familiar with the weapon. It's going to go a long, long way for, getting you by. Another thing, just my personal preference here, you saw that, the two pistols I showed you are revolvers. And these are double action revolvers, meaning that I can pull the hammer back and then pull the trigger, pow, or I can just pull the trigger. It's a harder pull, but if you're in a panic situation, say, you don't have the luxury of hearing someone break in your house, you're in your bedroom and they come through your bedroom door and you have time to grab your weapon and pull it over. You don't have time to grab a hammer, maybe. You just got both hands on there and pow! You squeeze that trigger as if your life depended on it, because it probably does. That's why I like double action revolvers. And unlike semi-automatic pistols, it's not going to jam on you. I mean, you have to do a whole lot to try to make a revolver jam on you. I've never seen one jam in my life, but I've seen countless jams from semi-automatic pistols, whether it be from faulty ammunition, because those semi-autos, when you fire a bullet, it relies on that combustion to make the slide go back to rack the next round. And if you've got a faulty bullet that misfires, then it's just sitting there. You got to take the magazine out, you got to clear the jam, you got to put it back in, you got to rack another round and try again. And that doesn't seem like much. That's maybe 5 seconds worth. But if you have 5 seconds to make your weapon fire and the bad guy only needs 2 seconds to get to you, it's not going to work. You're in trouble at that point, you know? So that's why I personally choose to keep revolvers for self-defense. Well, that, and hang on. I keep this lovely Mossberg 500. This doesn't stay, by my bed. I don't think I'll ever need this by the bed, but it is in the home in case I need it. If I'm up and I see a whole group of guys coming up to the door, crazy scenario, woo, something wild happens. I've got, these. Look at these, This is a slug. I keep slugs in mind because I'm a good shot. And if they're coming in the house, they don't have a lot of room to run anyway. So, those slugs, they leave holes the size of my thumb. And I've got a big thumb. So that's another one that I've never seen a shotgun jam either. Not a good old-fashioned pump shotgun like that. You can drag them through the dirt and the sand and they're never going to stop. So, if that's all you got for self-defense is your granddaddy's shotgun, then all those same rules apply that we've already talked about. It doesn't matter what the weapon is. The basic safety and basic principles always stay the same. One of those safety rules that I left a little bit for later deliberately after we covered some of this is now to assume it's loaded, not to point at anything you don't intend to shoot. Well, not intending to point at anything you don't intend to shoot. Well, I said that all kinds of wrong. I know what I did. This goes hand in hand with it. Make sure you know what you're shooting at. Know who you're shooting at. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you hear somebody trying to get in your door, okay, well, that's generally a sign for alarm. Grab your weapon, get ready. But if you live in a home where you have children, you have roommates, whatever, don't shoot the people in your house. Make sure you know who it is. Stand there, watch the door. If you hear somebody on the other side of the door trying to get in, and it could be a kid or a roommate or whatever, call through the door to them. Say, hey, who's out there? Hey, is that you, Billy Bob? Did you flush your keys at the VFW again? Do I need to let you in? It's going to save you and Billy Bob and any innocent civilians a lot of trouble. You don't want to hurt anybody that doesn't need to be hurt. I mean, really, don't do it. You're going to feel terrible. And they're going to feel worse because they just got shot. So, discretion. Use discretion in everything you do. Clearly, if somebody just kicked your freaking bedroom door in, man, and you just woke up, pow, pow. Nobody who is on your side is going to do that. That's, at that point, they're coming for your life. So, let's see. Oh, and one more safety tip that I can't believe I almost forgot to cover is if you don't live alone or you live with children or other adults even, make sure you keep your weapon in a safe place where it's not accessible. I mean, that should go without saying, but it still happens way more often than it should, that people who shouldn't get a hold of weapons get a hold of them. And a lot of those are kids. So if you got kids toddling around, if they're toddlers or whatever, you keep it in the top of the closet. If that's all you got, that's all you got. It's better than nothing. But I would say, if you can put that thing in a safe, like they make the gun vaults and whatnot, make things that are made for quick access, but also made to keep people out of it that shouldn't be in it. Get some kind of vault. Just don't leave them laying around where anybody could get it. Because you might think your kids don't know that you keep your gun under your pillow or your mattress, but trust me, kids are going to find stuff out. They're going to figure it out, and they're going to find it. And because, they know they're not supposed to play with it, they're going to freaking play with it. Or if you have, a really stupid roommate that has stupid friends and he wants to show off your gun when you're not there or something, that might happen too. So best thing you can do is prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Keep that thing locked up. Keep it put away. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of firearm safety and, selecting your firearm and things like that now. So what I'm going to move on to is just some basic principles, something that in the Marine Corps we call situational awareness, or terrorism awareness, as they changed it to as the times changed. Basically that's just fancy words for, pay attention to what you're doing, pay attention to who's around you, pay attention to where you're at. Like I related the story about the gas station. If you go to a gas station anywhere or store anywhere, particularly if you're in a rough neighborhood, then keep your head on a swivel, keep your eyes open, keep your nose out of your phone. Do not pull up to a gas station with my phone up in my face here. I don't have my phone, so I'm going to have this remote control. It's my phone. Oh, look, I got a text from Billy Bob. Billy Bob says that there's a possum stuck in the toilet. And then you look up and, oh crap, there's somebody trying to mug you. Could have been avoided because you weren't paying attention. Pay attention. If you pull up to somewhere and you see a suspicious looking figure sitting there, that doesn't mean you have to call the cops. That doesn't mean you have to pull out a weapon and point it at them. That just means take note of it. Notice that they are there. When I say suspicious, I'm not talking about the hobo that's hanging outside the store that, he's homeless. Dude's just down on his luck. I'm not saying that they can't rob you, but they're probably not gonna. They got a shopping cart, they got bags on their feet, dude. They ain't looking for trouble. But if you see somebody who's kind of standing on a corner and, he's glancing around, he's watching you as soon as you pull up, he's kind of got that interested look on you. Or if you pull up and as soon as you pull up, he starts walking towards you, don't get out of your car. If you see somebody that you think could be a threat and they start walking towards you, lock your doors, stay in your car. Let them walk up. They may be walking past you. There may be somebody behind you. But either way, you see them. You see that they're coming in your direction. And it could be a coincidence, but you're going to watch. If they pass you, if they go do whatever they do, okay, great. Get out. Go pump your gas. Go to the store, whatever. But if they come up to your window and they start messing with you, drive off. Just drive away. That is the absolute safest move you can do. Don't roll your window down. Don't open your door. I have seen this, people, where I'll relate this story. I dated a girl who was, she was just dumb. I was dumb too. I was young, early 20s. Woo! Who cares? But anyway, she got approached by two males in a dark parking lot with her daughter in the car. One comes up to the window, the opposite window from where she's sitting, because I was driving and I went into a store. She was sitting in the passenger seat. So one comes up to the driver's side window and knocks, and she leans over and rolls that one down for this guy to talk to her. The other guy walks around the car and opens her door. Let that sink in. Because she let them. And she still didn't see what was wrong with that. She said that they just wanted a light for their cigarette. They didn't have any cigarettes, people. You know how I know? Because I was in the store getting ready to check out. I looked out the window and I saw this going on. And I dropped everything. I dropped my wallet. I dropped whatever I was buying. And I shagged ass out that door to the car. And as soon as they saw me coming, they didn't need a light anymore. They booked it. They disappeared back into the darkness. And she just did not comprehend what was wrong. No clue as to why I was panicking. Don't be that person. Please don't be her. Please don't have that level of just not being aware of what's going on, okay? And again, that applies for everywhere you go. Another important thing is, if you have to park somewhere at night, especially if you're by yourself, park in a lit area, park in a populated area if you can. On top of being aware of the situations, there are things that you can do to try to make yourself less of a target. Again, park in that area, or if you see somebody walking up and you're alone and it's night, you could pretend that you're talking on the phone, not looking at the phone. Looking at the phone is bad. That makes you a target. Phone up to your ear like us old people do and talk to somebody. You can actually call somebody if you need to. That's even better. If you need to call somebody and just randomly talk to them, or if you're on the spot and you got to pretend that you're talking to somebody, that's a pretty good deterrent too, because it does make people think twice about messing with you, because even though nobody's there with you, they're on the phone with you, and chances are good that person you're on the phone with knows where you're at. Or you can even announce, hey, I am at the blah, blah, blah parking lot. I'm walking to the store right now. Let the guy know that people know where you're at, let's see here. Lighted area. I've covered all that about being out and about in public and everything and how to keep yourself safe. And those are just a few tips. That sort of thing also applies for your home as well. If you don't want yourself to be robbed, don't ever advertise your vulnerabilities to the general public, Like you've probably heard before that if you're not going to be at home at night, make sure you have lights on. Make sure that, you have maybe a kitchen light on or a carport light, just as long as the house isn't completely dark. A completely dark house looks much more appealing to a potential crook than a house that has a few lights on. Because at that point, they don't know if people are home. They don't know if people are awake in there. And most crooks do not want to try to tackle a house where somebody's awake. I mean, it's just going to be messy all the way around. If you're going to go somewhere, this is home defense when you're not home. If you're planning to go on vacation or something, if you have a neighbor or somebody you trust that you can have look at your house while you're gone, great. Have them do it. Do not go on the internet and say, hey guys, I'm going to be gone out of the state or out of the country for the next week or so. Nobody's at home. La, 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 la. You're going to get robbed. Don't get robbed. Be smart. And I think that I've talked for a long time here, and I've brought up a lot of things, and I really hope this can help somebody. And if you guys have any questions about anything, if there's anything that you think I might be able to help you with, if there's anything that I didn't cover that you want to know, you have questions about, if you feel like I'm the guy to ask, then ask me, and down there in the comments, and I will do my best to try to help you. And I know everybody says this nowadays, but I'm trying to grow this channel a little bit and get a few more people listening to me. So if you don't mind, if you want to give me a subscribe there, let's beef this thing up a little bit, and I'll make some more videos, talk some more if you like it. But I hope you guys stay safe. I hope everybody's doing good in these times and taking care of yourself the best you can. And until I come back with some other musical nonsense or whatnot, we'll see you next time.